welcome to another episode of Gathering Steam, all things STEAM education. And I can't think of another industry that really encompasses so much of the variety of disciplines within STEAM education: science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Well, today we're going to talk about filmmaking with Mr. Ted Adams, who is in the industry, has made multiple films, has won awards, and he sits on the board of the Stan Lee Foundation. Very exciting. He's going to talk with us today about careers in the industry. Mr. Adams, thank you so much for joining us today and enlightening our students as to, well, your career path and some advice that you may be able to offer them if they want to break into the industry. Thanks so much, and welcome to Gathering Steam.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I'm honored that you're here. So tell us a little bit about your career. We'll make this 10, 15 minutes. Give us the highlights of your, the high points of your trajectory that you've been on in the industry. And then we'll get into some advice for young people that may want to break into it.
Sure. I mean, one thing you may not realize is that I actually did go to Fairfax County Public Schools. And I went to Cardinal Forest and I went to Washington Irving. So after 8th grade, I went over to St. Stephen's in Alexandria. But I pretty much grew up in the D.C. area, especially here in Fairfax. So to be part of a program that deals with kids and learning and education in this area, it's a real honor to be part of something like that. But answering your question, for the industry, I actually started out my career as an engineer. So the whole idea of STEAM, pretty much I've hit on every one of those letters. I tell people I'm living proof it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be a rocket scientist, because I worked on space-based weapon systems when I was in college, when I was at Rice University in Houston, and we did work with NASA all the time. Right now I run a company that deals with missiles and stuff like that, so we design weapon systems and we help make sure they're calibrated properly, and so I do all that kind of stuff. But the thing that really makes me, that I'm passionate about is filmmaking and telling stories. And years ago, probably 11 years ago, actually, I was talking. My son was an intern with the Stan Lee, and I got him an internship. And when I was with Stan at a Comic-Con in San Diego, he was talking about setting up a school, like a university program. And I said, well, look, because I've had some other foundations before, and I deal with education myself. I said, look, instead of setting up your own university, why don't you set up a foundation and then help universities and help schools to, loan your name or bring your ideas to these programs, but just, empower successful programs to go to the next step. So he said, well, that's great. Ted, would you mind being the chairman? I'm like, all right, what? We made him the chairman first.
Now, Ted, wait a minute. Stan Lee asked you to form and to launch and to be the chairman of the Stan Lee Foundation. Right. Did you hesitate for a second before you said yes?
No, I mean, I wanted to do the foundation. It was my idea with them.
Let me think about that, Mr. Lee. I'll get back to you, right?
But I don't want to be the chairman. I wanted him to be the chairman. But he said
that's huge.
He was a heck of a salesperson. But the most important thing I learned from working with Stan is how he would work with writers. And one thing that I really enjoy about being in the film industry is writing. I mean, I'm a member of the Writers Guild of America, and I've written many scripts. Because of my business acumen, which is I run this engineering company, I'm able to take that engineering background and apply it to filmmaking. So I bring the various elements into that whole process. But on the writing side, and I mentioned Stan because I would hear him talk to his young apprentices for writing. And the thing he would always say time and time again is, tell me a story and make me care. And that meant something to me, because if you look at like the superheroes that he created, both the heroes and the villains, everyone has a phenomenal backstory.
Absolutely.
I would hear Stan say something like, well, nobody blows up the world just because they can. They blow up the world because they think it's the right thing to do. They think they have a motivation to do that. Mm-hmm. So when you put a backstory into any of your characters, you really take the time to make it worthwhile. Because if you don't care, the audience isn't going to care. So with Stan, every one of his characters had a great backstory. And that's where I think people miss that a lot. They get caught up in the special effects, or they get a cut up in, getting a certain actor in their movie, but they don't think about, what's this story really about, and what's the message behind the story. The other thing that he did, that I learned from him, was making sure even your heroes have flaws. So the reason why Marvel's characters are so successful is because every one of Stan's characters, and he created like 5,000 characters, but every one of his characters had some human flaw that he had to overcome, or she had to overcome or deal with. And that could be a racial issue, it could be alcoholism, it could be heart. I mean, people think of Iron Man, they think of all the gadgets and whatnot, but Stan would say he's a disabled person because he had a heart condition. And he turned that heart condition into a real strength. So that's the kind of thing that goes behind developing great characters for your stories. And then once you have great characters, telling a story is not as hard as it might seem, because you're basically telling someone's experience and something that everyone else can relate to, because we all have problems. We all are overcoming something. No matter who you speak with, they're dealing with something that you don't know about. So if you can tell your story or tell your character's story, you might tap into something that they can also relate to. So the most important thing in making films to me is, for me, any successful film, is going to be the story behind the film.
That's such a strong point. We were talking offline here. Me motivated as a digital media teacher, I keep saying to the kids, "My goodness, guys, yeah, you can go out there and you can make $1 million. Yeah, you can become a billionaire in this industry. Yeah, you can become the next YouTube superstar. But more than that, you have a specific talents that are in you, gifts that you have been given, and you have a unique voice and a unique take on the world. And why not use these technologies and these gifts to make a difference in the world, And I just, that's one of the things that's so exciting, I think, about this industry, is that you can do that. You can make a difference. You can reach people. You can change lives and your world, indeed, for the better, and make a good living doing it too. Talk about some of the technology in here. I was looking at some of your trailers and whatnot. I know a lot of kids right now, drone technology, and you working in the defense systems, of course. I mean, drones have been around within the military forever. These days you can spend $150, go out there, get yourself an FAA license, and get into commercial drone operation. More and more, right. That's huge if you want to get into the television and movie industry. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about technology and movie making and storytelling is that because of technology, great stories can be told, and it doesn't cost $1 million to make those kind of films anymore. I mean, as you'll see from clips in a little bit, we shot a short film just using an iPhone. I mean, it was all shot on this guy. That's it. And we incorporated some computer technology, that my son pulled in to make some animations for it. But by and large, it was all done on our phone, and we used Filmic Pro. We downloaded that. It cost like $15. But you have a studio in your pocket if you have a cell phone. Now, again, as much as the technology can do some phenomenal things, and post-production can do some amazing things, make sure whatever technology you apply, you apply it so it helps tell a story and drive a story forward. It's one thing to have access to great, post-production equipment and footage and things of that nature, but if you're not dealing with the fundamentals, then your story's not going to last. It's not going to be seen by too many people, except for, how do you use a certain type of a drone, that kind of thing. Now, the other thing I learned when I shot the movie Try, we used some drone footage for some swimmers that were swimming in this lake in Luray. Mm-hmm. And we had 4,000.
That was the trailer I watched, right?
Do you spend your whole day here?
Most of the day, yeah.
Girl, you need some sunshine. You know what you should do?
A triathlon.
Yeah. Get outside, run around. It's fun.
I'm going to do a triathlon.
Yeah. So when I was so taken by those drone footage, I'm like, we should just have a shot of just follow the swimmer all the way throughout this race. And my director of photography, her name is Gendra Jarnigan, phenomenal cinematographer. She said, "Hey Ted, it's great. It looks amazing, but you just want to have a taste of it. You don't want to have a whole meal of drone footage. Otherwise, it's a different kind of movie. So whatever technology you have, don't fall in love with it so much that you forget that it's flavoring. That's not the story. It's got to be part of the story, and you want to have a taste of it, not a meal of it. So unless you want to make an animated film, that's fine. If you want to do things that's dependent on that technology, that's fine. Lord of the Rings, a lot of green screen, that's phenomenal too. When we shot, and then the other thing is the practice. So again, low budget, learn how to use green screens. Green screens are saving the day as far as being in COVID. I mean, you can shoot a whole. I'm about to shoot a film this month, actually next month. That's going to be set on a chessboard, and it deals with. And I'm going to use chessmen and chess pieces. I'm gonna use CGI to superimpose faces on them to help tell the story. But none of this started without a script. It also wrote the story, and I basically wrote the script and the story around the technology that I had available to me. That way I can make the film myself and not just depend on everybody else to do it for me. So my advice is learn some technologies, master it if you can. Not all technologies. It's too much. It's too overwhelming. But if you master something, you make yourself valuable to be on a movie set. That's the other thing. When you can get on a movie set as a production assistant, it's called a PA. Learn from the people that you're there with. I mean, they're always open to share. They want to teach you stuff. Open yourself to learn. Make mistakes. Be respectful at all costs, but make sure that you do your homework before you arrive on set, and don't act like you know everything, because you don't. I mean, when Steven Spielberg, okay, he directed E.T. and all those other. I'm trying to think of what the current generation would know. Saving Private Ryan, okay, or Lincoln. He shot Lincoln here in Virginia. Okay, I have some friends of mine on set, and when you look at a person like Steven Spielberg, what Steven Spielberg would, when he's on set. He's the least experienced person on the set. That sounds strange to hear you say that. I hear me say that because he did Jaws, he did all these phenomenal movies. But he knows how to tell a story. He also knows how to bring in people who have the best skills in certain job positions. If you want to get on set with a Steven Spielberg, learn one of those skill sets very, very well. And you'll be working with one of the masters in filmmaking or storytelling. So learning how to use post-production equipment, editing, the editing suites, Premiere Pro, all those things are great because it'll allow you to add value to the film process. You'll be in the industry and always add value. Don't take things away. Offer services that can make a difference in the process.
And so much of that, as you say, really just comes with experience. And you look at this, for instance, this technology that I've got. It looks like I'm on a multi-million-dollar set here, but the simple fact of the matter is I'm using a program that cost me about $360. I got a couple grand wrapped up in equipment, and I'm literally in about a 9x9 square in my little kitchen in Fairfax, right down the road from you. So it's absolutely crazy what we're capable of doing these days. And I think it's so important what you just said. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Get out there, start now, do it. I'm excited about this interview today. Today we have Mr. Ted Anderson joining me in the
Adams.
Let me do it again. Okay. All right. Today we are going to talk about digital filmmaking with Mr. Ted Anderson. Ted Adams. Did it again. Why am I saying Anderson?
I don't know.
Wow. Take 3. Well, today we're going to talk about filmmaking with Mr. Ted Adams, who is in the industry. Do it, get better at it. That's how you get better, and that's how you become a master, and someday somebody's going to notice your work, So, hey, I want to thank you so much. Word of advice here to young people looking to want to break into the industry one way or another here. And then we'll get out and we'll let folks go to your website, Red Zeppelin Productions, and learn more about the Stan Lee Foundation, turn the kids on to opportunities there. So word of advice to aspiring young digital movie makers out there, sir.
Well, the biggest part of advice is to learn storytelling. And it sounds as fundamental as it is, but if you understand storytelling, everything else falls into place. And having a great story, I mean, if you look at the top 10 things for filmmaking, story is going to be, or script is going to be the first 6. Sound is, if you become a great sound engineer, my goodness, you will never go without a job in this area, in the DC metropolitan area, because everyone needs a great sound position. I'd say sound is more important than actual video visuals. Because
we were just talking about that today in our session, actually.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
It really is. Audio will make or break any level of video. And I asked the kids, I said, you know what? Think of your favorite video game. Turn the sound off.
Yeah.
How effective is it then? You know?
If you go to a movie theater, okay, if you see something that's out of focus, you think it's part of the story. It's supposed to be out of focus. If it's got bad sound, you will walk out.
Absolutely.
And you won't even think twice about it. So sound is much more important than the actual video. Not as important as the actual story, but make sure you learn how to use that sound equipment, how to do post-production sound.
Now, Ted, you're an educated man, multiple degrees. You've worked in all sorts of different industries across the STEAM spectrum, as you mentioned. How important is a formal education in this industry?
Well, it's important because you know how to bring in certain skill sets that you don't have. Like I'm a mechanical engineer, so we do everything from airplanes to zippers, and I'm a pilot. So I've flown planes. I know. I've studied 6 different languages. I've worked in every continent from the world except for Antarctica. But I'm not. I wouldn't. It's funny they say that you're not a master of all these things, and I'm not. But I know when to ask for help. One thing that engineering teaches you is not so much to memorize anything. It teaches you how to figure things out. And that education, when you go to college, you learn how to learn, how to learn things. Okay, so knowing how to find the answers, knowing how to put things together, knowing how to solve a problem, that's what engineers do. And ultimately, that's what a producer of any film does. So the producer is the person who basically gets the movie completed. They don't get much credit. Okay, they take a lot of the risk, they take all the responsibilities, but you don't remember who the producer was of Star Wars. I mean, you might, but you probably don't. You'll remember the director, you'll remember the actors, you remember all those great things, but the person that does most of the work, you don't know his or her name, and it's okay, because if you're a producer, you don't care about that. You want to get the job done, you want to make money, you want to make sure that the money is sourced to do all those things, but all my degrees, that all goes into how to run a production, how to run a company, and I'm able to do engineering companies to video production companies to we have our own distribution company now.
Absolutely. I mean, let's face it, these skills that we're talking about, fundamental problem solving, this is the foundation of the STEAM educational pathway. It is project based. I mean, this is the real world. You know, you
right.
Run into a problem, you run into a hurdle, you figure out a way to solve it, then you get to work, and it's trial and error and trial and error and trial and error. And then all of a sudden one day, bingo, the light comes on. This is how innovation happens. So I really appreciate your advice, Mr. Adams. Thank you so much for coming on today. And I'm looking forward to having a more in-depth conversation with you sometime soon. It's great. Maybe we can meet in person someday soon. That'd be great. It's nice that we're right down the road from one another. Hey, I really appreciate this, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Absolutely. Okay, and there you go. Ted Adams coming to you on the latest episode of Gathering Steam, talking about careers in digital movie making. I'm Sam Matero. Mr. E out. We'll catch you next time around.